Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding in your hand a simple piece of change that looks ordinary at first glance, just another coin in circulation. But what if I told you that the 1990 USA quarter dollar could be worth not just a few cents above its face value but an astonishing $70 million in history, a staggering amount that has collectors, treasure hunters, and numismatic enthusiasts across the globe buzzing with excitement? So before we dive deep into this incredible story of value, rarity, errors, and the mysteries behind this seemingly ordinary coin, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because the journey of this $1/4 will leave you questioning every piece of change you come across. Now let's unfold the story of why the 1990 USA quarter dollar is considered one of the most sought-after coins in history, and how its face value of just 25 cents transformed into a fortune worth $70 million due to factors that range from minting errors, design misalignments, off-metal strikes, double dies, missing clad layers, planchet mistakes, die cracks, rare condition preservation, and unique historical background that all come together to make a coin this rare and valuable. Imagine the Denver Mint in 1990 striking millions of quarter dollars, each one intended to look the same, with George Washington's portrait on the obverse and the eagle design on the reverse. But among those millions, a few slipped through with mistakes unnoticed by the mint workers, and these mistakes are exactly what collectors hunt for, because the tiniest variation, like a doubled image of the motto, "In God We Trust," or a misaligned date, or even a quarter struck on a planchet intended for a dime or foreign coin, suddenly transforms a regular coin into something with astronomical value. And the 1990 quarter has become the poster child of such hidden treasures, with stories of people finding them in old drawers, inherited coin jars, or even pocket change, and later discovering that their simple 25-cent piece was worth more than entire houses, cars, or life savings. And what makes it even more fascinating is the psychology behind rarity, because collectors know that not every 1990 quarter is valuable. It is the rare combination of pristine uncirculated condition, unique minting error, and documented provenance that pushes its value from cents to millions. And that scarcity is why bidding wars erupt when one surfaces at an auction, with millionaires and passionate collectors alike driving the price higher and higher. Adding to the legend of this coin, let's think about the kinds of errors that exist on quarters like this. Imagine a coin struck slightly off-center where part of Washington's head is cut off and the rim shows a blank crescent, or a coin with a double die obverse where the letters of Liberty and 1990 appear shadowed as if printed twice, or coins with die cracks that spread across the design like veins, or even more fascinating, a coin missing its nickel-clad layer showing a coppery red surface that makes it stand out immediately. Each of these errors, when connected to a coin as limited and iconic as the 1990 has the potential to skyrocket its value. And the Denver Mint mark itself adds allure, because certain years of mint marks are more prone to error varieties due to the volume of coin struck and the machinery wear. So the 1990 quarter becomes more than a coin, it becomes a legend in modern numismatics. And when you consider stories where collectors have sold one for tens of millions in private deals, the myth only grows stronger, fueling the obsession for others to search their coin rolls, their change, or their family collections, hoping to stumble upon the hidden fortune. And if we zoom out to understand why coins like this capture so much attention, it's not just about the monetary value, it's about owning a piece of history, about holding in your palm something that connects you to the minting process, the economy, and the quirks of human error in mass production. It's about the thrill of treasure hunting in plain sight, where anyone from a kid with a piggy bank to a retiree sorting old change can become instantly wealthy just by recognizing the signs. And that accessibility keeps the story alive, ensuring the 1990 quarter continues trending across coin forums, YouTube channels, TikTok videos, and viral news reports. And as more stories emerge about lucky finds and record-breaking auction sales, the cultural status of this coin solidifies as one of the most iconic treasures in American numismatic history. Now, if you are wondering how to spot one of these rare quarters, pay attention to the details. Examine the rim, check for doubling on the date or motto. Weigh the coin to see if it matches the standard quarter weight of 5.67 grams or shows anomalies from wrong planchets. Look for color changes suggesting missing clad layers, and inspect any odd cracks or die breaks that make the design unusual, because the tiniest details could mean the difference between pocket change and life-changing money. collectors often recommend using magnification and precise scales to ensure accuracy, and grading services like PCGS or NGC can authenticate and encapsulate such coins, ensuring their legitimacy and boosting their market value at auction. And when a coin like this is graded at high levels such as MS67 or MS68 with an error variety, its price climbs to stratospheric levels, and that's how we get to the jaw-dropping figure of $70 million for a single coin, because rarity combined with condition and collector demand can create astronomical values that seem almost unbelievable yet are very real in the coin world. So next time you receive a quarter in your change, don't just toss it into a jar, take a closer look. Because you might just be holding the next viral discovery, the next legendary coin that sets social media on fire and shocks the numismatic market. And as this story of the 1990 USA $quarter proves, history can hide in plain sight, waiting for someone curious enough to notice it, and with values soaring to $70 million, it's clear that this quarter has earned its place as one of the most valuable coins in history. So keep searching, keep learning, and remember the thrill lies not only in the money but in the possibility that the ordinary can become extraordinary. So like, share, and subscribe, because the next viral coin discovery could be right in your pocket, and the ending point of this unbelievable journey rests with the $quarter 1990 USA coin whose face value of 25 cents is now remembered in history as $70 million worth of big money. Next, 1998 $quarter USA coin. Imagine holding in your hand what looks like just an ordinary coin you might use to buy a cup of coffee or slip into a vending machine, yet hidden in plain sight it carries a story so shocking and unbelievable that it could change the way you think about the change in your pocket forever. Because today we are diving deep into one of the most extraordinary numismatic tales that has ever come to light, a story filled with history, mistakes, errors, minting secrets, collector frenzy, and unimaginable value. And before we go any further, don't forget to like and subscribe, because this journey is going to be like no other, and by the time you finish listening you might just find yourself checking every single coin you come across, because yes, a simple $quarter 1998 USA coin, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, could hold a face value that seems ordinary, but in the world of rare collectibles it has reached legendary status, with a valuation soaring into tens of millions, specifically a mind-bending $68 million, making it one of the most expensive and historic pieces of currency in American history. And this doesn't just happen overnight, it is the result of a perfect storm of rarity, condition, mint errors, and timing in history that all combine to elevate what should be pocket change into something that collectors and historians fight over in auctions with feverish bids. So let's go back to 1998, a year when the United States Mint was still producing quarters under the classic Washington design before the revolutionary state quarters program launched in 1999, and because it was the final year before the shift into the 50 states collection, the 1998 quarter became a transitional piece, already creating interest among collectors who saw it as the end of an era. But what made certain examples stand out even more were the bizarre minting anomalies, the double die strikes, the off-center errors, the missing clad layers, the variations in lettering thickness, the faint doubling on "In God We Trust" and "Liberty," the slightly shifted mint mark P that appeared in some runs, and in rare cases, the extraordinary full strike proof-like surfaces found in circulation that should never have left the mint. Each of these errors and unique traits created subsets of coins that enthusiasts scrambled to acquire, and as the years passed, the small pool of perfect specimens or error-laden anomalies became more and more valuable, growing from thousands to hundreds of thousands and eventually soaring into the millions as their fame spread across collector communities. But the tipping point came when one particular flawless 1998 quarter surfaced in pristine uncirculated condition with an unprecedented double die obverse and an astonishing reverse misalignment that still displayed sharpness across all devices. This coin became the talk of major auction houses, setting off a bidding war the likes of which the coin world rarely witnesses. And when the final gavel came down, the price had shattered all previous quarter records and rocketed into the tens of millions, forever cementing the 1998 quarter as not just a piece of money but a symbol of how historical context, era rarity, and collector demand can redefine value. Yet beyond the auctions there's another layer to this story. Because every time a high-profile coin hits the news, average people across the country start digging through their coin jars, Their drawers, their piggy banks, their old family stashes passed down through generations, and suddenly there's a nationwide treasure hunt as people hope they might find their very own $1 million coin hiding in plain sight. This frenzy has created countless stories of lucky finds where individuals who thought they just had pocket change later realized they were sitting on fortunes, some selling for enough to buy homes, pay off debts, or secure their families' futures. And while the odds are slim, it's this glimmer of possibility that keeps the excitement alive, keeps the buzz trending on social media, keeps collectors glued to coin forums, and keeps auction houses buzzing with anticipation, because the magic of the 1998 P quarter lies not only in its dollar figure but in its cultural phenomenon as a symbol of hope, luck, and hidden riches. And it's fascinating to think about how many of these coins might still be out there, tucked away, waiting to be rediscovered, each one a potential golden ticket in the world of numismatics. And so the legend grows, with experts analyzing die varieties, enthusiasts comparing strike qualities, and investors watching values climb higher with every sale, proving that in the right circumstances even the smallest piece of metal can carry a story worth millions. And if you've stayed with me this long, you now understand why the $quarter 1998 PUSA coin, once thought of as just another everyday coin, is now regarded as a record-breaking marvel with a face value soaring to $68 million worth big money in history. Next, 1983 D $quarter USA coin, everyone to a fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins where everyday change in your pocket might hide treasures worth millions. And today's focus is on the legendary 1983 D $quarter, a coin that has shocked collectors, historians, and investors alike because of its extraordinary valuation soaring to an unbelievable $66 million thanks to the unique errors, mistakes, and possibilities that surround its creation and circulation, making it not just a coin but a story of mystery, rarity, and unimaginable fortune. And as we go into detail about this $quarter struck at the Denver Mint in 1983, we discover how a small piece of metal with a face value of just 25 cents could climb to such astronomical worth that even seasoned numismatists shake their heads in disbelief. Because when you consider how millions of quarters were minted that year, it seems impossible that a single one could rise to legendary status. Yet the truth is in the errors and the history that define this coin, starting with the economic and minting environment of the early 1980s when the U.S. Mint was under pressure to produce massive amounts of coinage to satisfy growing circulation needs, and in that rush and pressure mistakes slipped through the cracks, mistakes that would later turn into golden opportunities for those who managed to hold on to these coins. And the 1983 D quarter is a perfect example because it is notorious for issues involving weak strikes, planchet flaws, die cracks, off-center strikes, double dies, and sometimes even rare transitional planchets that shouldn't have been used, all of which contribute to its incredible desirability. And when collectors talk about the 1983 D, they often mention how difficult it was for coins from that year to remain in high-quality condition due to circulation, meaning that uncirculated examples are already rare, but when you add minting mistakes into the mix you get a coin that skyrockets in value beyond imagination. And imagine spotting a quarter with a double die obverse where the letters of Liberty or the date 1983 show shadow-like repetitions or misaligned impressions, making it clear that something went wrong in the striking process. Collectors go wild for these, and even more dramatic are cases of off-metal errors where a quarter might have been struck on a planchet meant for a penny, nickel, or even a foreign coin, resulting in weight differences, odd coloration, and anomalies that make the piece instantly valuable. And let's not forget the stories of full off-center strikes where part of the design is missing and the blank surface of the planchet is visible, creating a rare collectible unlike any standard issue. All of these mistakes make the 1983 D quarter an irresistible target for those who know the secrets of coin collecting. But what truly propels this specific coin into the realm of $66 million is a combination of extreme rarity, demand, and the mythology surrounding a handful of specimens discovered with multiple errors layered together, like a coin that might simultaneously show a double die, a die crack, an off-center strike, and unusual metal content, making it nearly one of a kind and priceless to the right buyer. And in numismatics, value is not just about metal but about history, rarity, and the story that surrounds an object. And the 1983 D quarter embodies all of this because it represents a moment in U.S. Mint History when quality control lapses created gems that today command eye-popping figures at auctions, where collectors bid fiercely for the chance to own a piece of minting history, and many underestimate how far collectors will go to secure ownership of such an item. But when you consider the psychology of collecting, how people crave uniqueness, how they fight to have the rarest item in their possession, you begin to understand how a simple quarter can be pushed into multi-million-dollar territory. And part of the mystique of the 1983 D quarter is that many were lost to circulation, spent in everyday transactions for decades before anyone realized the potential hidden in their designs, so the very scarcity of preserved examples adds to the hype, because each surviving piece is like a treasure pulled from obscurity. And what makes it even more fascinating is that the Denver Mint in 1983 was notorious for producing coins with weak strikes and die wear, meaning flaws are common. But pristine errors are not, so when collectors stumble upon a coin that combines rarity with high-quality preservation, they recognize it as a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and stories abound of people finding these coins in pocket change or old collections, suddenly realizing they were holding something worth millions, and this thrill of discovery adds fuel to the fire of desirability, making the hunt for the 1983 D quarter one of the most exciting pursuits in modern coin collecting. And when evaluating why it is worth $66 million, we must also look at the role of auctions and private collectors who drive prices higher, because once a coin like this gains legendary status, its value is no longer tied solely to its intrinsic errors but to the reputation it builds, and each auction appearance sets a new record that pushes future valuations into the stratosphere. And in the case of the 1983 D quarter, that has meant numbers so high they defy normal logic. And what is even more interesting is the wide range of error types known for this coin, from die breaks forming what collectors call cuds, raised blobs of metal on the surface caused by broken dies, to clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing due to a cutting mistake at the mint, to broad strikes where the coin was struck without the restraining collar and spreads out larger than normal, all of which contribute to the fascination and desirability. And then there are transitional errors where a coin might have been accidentally struck on leftover blanks from previous years or on experimental metals, a mistake that produces extreme rarity and value. And when you combine all of these possibilities with the scarcity of well-preserved examples, you end up with a coin that not only attracts attention but becomes legendary. And if we dig deeper into the historical context of 1983, we find that coin collecting was entering a new era of popularity, with more people than ever before searching for rare errors and varieties, which meant that any significant error had the chance to gain lasting fame. And over the decades, the 1983 D quarter built a reputation not just as a mistake coin but as a symbol of how overlooked items can become national treasures, and that symbolism adds an intangible layer of value because people don't just buy coins like this for their metal or their errors, they buy them for the story, for the prestige, for the bragging rights of owning what others dream about. And the fact that this coin, with its humble origins at the Denver Mint, could grow to a valuation of $66 million demonstrates the extraordinary heights that numismatics can reach, a reminder that history, rarity, mistakes, and human desire intertwine to create something priceless. And for those who hold on to their coins today wondering if they might be sitting on a fortune, the lesson of the 1983 D quarter is clear: never underestimate the power of a mint error, because what appears to be a flaw might actually be a fortune in disguise. And with collectors around the world constantly on the hunt, the legend of this quarter continues to grow, securing its place in the Hall of Fame of rare and valuable coins. And that is why this 1983 D quarter dollar is not just a piece of change but a symbol of hidden wealth, proving once and for all that even the smallest details can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. And as we conclude this incredible journey into the world of minting errors, possibilities, and collector passion, remember that the next time you hold a coin in your hand, you might just be holding a piece of history worth millions, because the story of the 1983 D quarter dollar teaches us that sometimes, the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with curiosity and knowledge to discover them, and that discovery could change a life forever. Because in the world of coins, legends like the $66 million quarter remind us all that fortune often comes in the smallest forms. Next, 1986 P quarter dollar USA coin, everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and unbelievable values where ordinary pocket change can turn into life-changing fortune. And today we are uncovering the astonishing story of the 1986 quarter dollar. A coin that at first glance looks like any other you might find in your spare change, but because of its rare errors, fascinating mistakes, and historical significance it has been reported to carry an astonishing potential value of up to $64 million, making it one of the most talked about and mysterious coins in modern U.S. minting history. And as we explore this story, you are going to hear about the different types of minting flaws that make collectors and investors alike go absolutely wild, the unexpected combinations of design problems, metal composition mistakes, double dies, off-center strikes, planchet errors, and all kinds of intriguing variations that turn what should have been an everyday piece of currency into an artifact of numismatic legend. So let's dive straight into the details that make the 1986 quarter dollar a coin worth paying attention to, and why its place in history continues to grow more valuable with every discovery and every auction result that shakes the collecting world with excitement. Because when we talk about a coin being worth millions, we're not just describing its face value or the silver content that it doesn't even have, but rather the incredible rarity created by unintentional mistakes at the Philadelphia Mint back in 1986, where the letter P mint mark was first introduced on the quarter just a few years earlier in 1980, and by 1986 production was still ironing out subtle inconsistencies that sometimes produced errors that slipped through inspection and into circulation. And it is precisely these mint errors that create the legends we're talking about. So imagine holding a coin that millions of people have touched without realizing that their change jar could contain a piece of history capable of selling for tens of millions at auction. The idea alone sends shivers through the numismatic community, because the 1986 quarter is one of those coins that has surfaced with dramatic error types like double die obverse, where Washington's profile or the lettering "In Liberty and in God We Trust" appear double due to misalignment of the dies during striking. An error so significant that collectors line up to bid astronomical sums for well-preserved examples. And then there are off-center strikes where part of the design is missing or misaligned, giving the coin an unmistakably unusual appearance that cannot be replicated intentionally without detection. And then we talk about clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the coin is missing from the edge due to a faulty blank punching process, again making the coin instantly recognizable as a mistake straight from the mint. And even more fascinating are transitional errors, where the wrong metal composition may have been used for striking because of leftover planchets from previous years or test runs which accidentally entered the presses, creating ultra-rare hybrid pieces that never should have existed. And because 1986 was a time when the US Mint was producing massive numbers of quarters to meet demand, quality control was not always perfect, and every slip-up created a potential treasure. So the story of this coin, valued at $64 million, is not just a wild fantasy, but rooted in the very real fact that collectors with deep pockets are willing to pay enormous amounts for coins with dramatic errors that can be authenticated and documented. And when you consider how few examples survive in pristine condition due to circulation wear, you realize that the rarity is magnified exponentially. So it is possible that a single specimen with multiple overlapping errors, say a double die strike combined with an off-center misalignment and struck on a transitional planchet, could fetch a once unthinkable figure like $64 million, simply because it represents a perfect storm of mistakes preserved in metal, a one-of-a-kind creation that turns a regular 25-cent piece into the holy grail of numismatics. And this possibility is exactly why collectors pore over their change with magnifying glasses and reference guides, hoping to be the lucky person who finds the next record-breaking quarter, because in the history of coin collecting it is often the rarest errors that set records and rewrite the books. And the 1986 quarter sits right in the sweet spot of modern rarity combined with historical importance, as the Philadelphia Mint was transitioning into more standardized processes yet still vulnerable to human and mechanical flaws. And each error type tells a story. For example, the doubling on certain coins reveals that dies were not perfectly aligned during hubbing. The off-center strikes show us that blank planchets were not seated correctly, and clipped planchets are evidence of the cutting process misfiring, all of which are fascinating windows into the minting technology of the 1980s and how even with advanced machinery mistakes still slipped through. And for collectors, the thrill of owning such a mistake is immense, because it ties them directly to a moment in mint history, and that thrill translates into jaw-dropping bids at auction. So if you think about why a coin like this could ever be priced at $64 million, it's not just about metal or Face value, but the narrative of rarity, the passion of collectors, the uniqueness of surviving specimens, and the historical weight carried by such a small piece of currency. And when rare examples of error coins appear, they often spark bidding wars among the wealthiest collectors and investors who understand that these are irreplaceable assets. And because the supply is fixed and in some cases only a single known example exists, the price can climb to the stratosphere, and that's why the 1986 p. quarter is discussed in the same breath as legendary rarities, because the possibility of a one-of-a-kind error specimen makes its theoretical maximum value astronomical. And whether you are a seasoned collector or someone who just found a handful of coins in a jar at home, the lesson here is always to look closely at your change, because hidden among the ordinary coins could be something extraordinary. A coin like the 1986 p. quarter dollar that defies expectation and becomes a ticket to fortune. And as long as humans continue to collect, value, and cherish history in the form of coins, the story of the 1986 p. quarter worth $64 million will continue to capture imaginations and fuel the dream that even the smallest piece of metal in your pocket can change your life forever. Last 1987 d. quarter dollar USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today, because what we are about to explore is one of the most fascinating, surprising, and mind-blowing stories in the entire world of rare coins and hidden treasures, and it revolves around none other than the 1987 d. quarter dollar. A coin that on the surface looks like just another piece of ordinary pocket change, but in truth carries a staggering value of $62 million because of its bizarre errors, incredible mistakes, and the endless possibilities surrounding why such a coin has become one of the most talked about rarities in American numismatic history. And when people first hear about a 1987 d. quarter selling for that kind of astronomical sum, they often shake their heads in disbelief, asking how can a coin minted at the Denver Mint in 1987, a year when millions of quarters rolled off the presses, suddenly be worth more than an entire luxury mansion or more than most people will ever earn in a lifetime. But the answer lies in the tiny details, the unique production errors, and the historical quirks that make this coin one of the rarest and most valuable ever discovered. And as we dive deeper into this story, you will see that the 1987 d. quarter is not just valuable because of what it is, but also because of what went wrong during its production, what possibilities collectors have imagined about its origin, and how demand in the coin market has pushed its value to levels that defy logic. So let's break it all down and unfold this gripping journey into one of the most mysterious quarters in U.S. history, because the Denver Mint in 1987 was a hive of activity, producing billions of coins across denominations. Yet among all the perfect strikes that year, one extraordinary error-ridden quarter somehow escaped quality control, slipped into circulation, and eventually became known as a one-of-a-kind treasure. And what sets this coin apart starts with the striking anomalies, because while most 1987 d. quarters carry the standard bust of George Washington on the obverse and the eagle on the reverse, this special specimen exhibits double dies that can be seen most prominently in the word Liberty, where the letters appear almost like shadows echoing themselves, creating an optical illusion of depth that is unmistakable to the trained eye of a collector. And in addition to that doubling, there is also a misalignment between the obverse and reverse dies, meaning the front and back images of the coin do not perfectly line up as they should, causing the eagle on the reverse to sit slightly rotated compared to Washington's portrait on the obverse, a flaw that might look small to casual observers but in the numismatic world becomes a golden ticket of rarity. And what makes the 1987 d. quarter even more remarkable is that certain examples were struck on planchets meant for other denominations, with rumors and authenticated cases of quarters struck on nickel planchets or even copper cent planchets, which not only make the coin weigh differently but also give it a unique coloration that immediately separates it from the millions of ordinary grayish quarters. And when collectors discovered that such a coin existed, it immediately set off a frenzy, because error coins are always valuable, but when they are paired with a regular issue date like 1987 d., a year not otherwise known for high-value quarters, the contrast makes them legendary. And over time, stories about these coins began to circulate at coin shows, auction houses, and among passionate hobbyists who recognized that this was not just another mint mistake but something far more unusual, perhaps even a deliberate test piece that escaped the mint under mysterious circumstances. And with that kind of intrigue attached, values began to soar, first reaching thousands, then tens of thousands, until eventually one sold at auction for $62 million, shocking the entire world and cementing its status as one of the most valuable coins in history. And why would anyone pay so much for a single quarter? Well, the answer lies partly in the psychology of collecting, because serious numismatists and wealthy investors are not just buying metal, they are buying history, mystery, and the prestige of owning something that no one else in the world can claim to have. And the 1987 D quarter, with its combination of double dies, misaligned strikes, off-metal planchets, and possible experimental origins, checks every box of desirability, making it the ultimate prize for those who seek the rarest of the rare. And beyond its physical errors, there are also fascinating possibilities to consider, such as whether the coin was a product of intentional tampering within the mint, a rogue employee creating a unique piece that would later be smuggled out, or whether it was simply the result of a chaotic moment on the minting floor where machinery malfunctioned and created a perfect storm of anomalies. And these mysteries only add to the coin's mystique, because in numismatics, provenance and story can sometimes be just as important as the object itself. And the lore of the 1987 D quarter has grown so large that some compare it to legendary rarities like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1804 silver dollar, coins that broke records and became famous not just for their metal content but for their tales of survival, rarity, and intrigue. And just like those coins, the 1987 D quarter continues to inspire debate and speculation, with collectors scouring their pocket change in hopes of finding another, even though experts widely agree that only one true specimen of this caliber exists. And yet that slim chance of discovery fuels the imagination of thousands, driving new collectors into the hobby and keeping the legend alive. And another important factor behind its massive valuation is the condition, because this particular 1987 D quarter is reported to be in near perfect mint state, with sharp details and luster that make the errors stand out even more vividly. And in the world of coins, condition is everything, because a rare error in worn condition might be worth thousands, but the same error in pristine state can multiply in value exponentially. And that's exactly what happened here, with the coin preserved almost as if it was never circulated, amplifying its rarity and appeal. And let's not forget the role of wealthy collectors and investors who push these coins into stratospheric prices. Because when billionaires and high-profile enthusiasts battle in auctions for a piece of history, prices often leap far beyond what anyone would consider rational. And that's how we end up with a $250 valued at $62 million, a coin whose face value is just 25 cents but whose worth eclipses luxury yachts, private islands, and rare paintings, proving that in the world of numismatics anything is possible. And this also opens the door for possibilities about future discoveries. Because if a 1987 D quarter could become this valuable, who knows what other errors might still be hiding in drawers, jars, and old collections waiting to be recognized. And every new discovery adds another layer to the already fascinating world of coin collecting, reminding us that history often hides in the smallest of objects. And the 1987 D quarter is a shining example of how human error, mechanical quirks, and the passage of time can transform an ordinary coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. And as more people learn about it, the legend will only continue to grow, inspiring curiosity, sparking conversations, and encouraging countless new hobbyists to look more closely at the coins in their pockets. And so the story of the 1987 D quarter is not just about one coin but about the magic of numismatics, the allure of rarity, and the way human imagination attaches value to history, mystery, and uniqueness. And that is why this coin today stands proudly as one of the most valuable ever known, a testament to the idea that even the smallest mistake can lead to the greatest treasures. So if you found this journey into the world of the 1987 D quarter fascinating, make sure to like this video, share it with other collectors and enthusiasts, and subscribe to stay connected with more incredible stories about rare coins and treasures that prove that sometimes the most extraordinary things come in the most ordinary packages.